Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Over the past couple of days I had a rather impulsive decision to make a first-person view multi-crewed propeller bomber, and that is what I'm going to be showing you all today. Strictly speaking, this is a custom build, but I took heavy inspirations from the Boeing B-29 and B-50 bomber planes. I hope you enjoy. We begin on the airborne map, where I started by building the cockpit. I molded a relatively round shape to serve as a window for the pilot to see out of, and devised two versions. One with a more rounded off edge and one which was more pointed. To begin with, the rounded one felt like a better choice, but later on in the build, I ended up using the more pointed variant. Initially, I wanted to have all the seats eject inside the aircraft to make it more immersive to use with friends. For example, the roof gunner is getting no action. There are no planes in the sky, and there are just ground targets lighting up the plane from below. The pilot suddenly gets hit and is ejected from his seat. The plane begins to fall. The gunner gets up and assumes their new position in the front of the plane. At least that's what I wanted. Whether or not that would actually work in combat with a multiplayer server is a completely different matter that I know not the outcome of, but I predict it would not be so successful. But regardless, I designed the inside of the plane in such a way that you can, albeit with great difficulty, get out of your seat as a gunner and walk around inside. Unfortunately, I could not demonstrate this on film while the plane was in flight because I had nobody to get into the pilot's seat for me and fly the plane. Also, it couldn't really fly yet, so by the time it could, complexity limited me from being extra extravagant with making it work. But despite the shortcomings in my building performance so far, I continued, adamant that this would be a cool build, which it is, right? Anyway. Next, I made a door. Very cool, yes, I know. No, seriously, I genuinely think it's a cool door, but what am I supposed to say about it? It's a door. It opens and closes, it splits along the middle, just like my brain when I try to make a new fighter jet. Moving swiftly on, we get to the bottom of the plane where I add bomb bays, because what good is a bomber without any bombs, am I right? I put them on this servo because I wanted there to be enough room for the gunners to manually walk to their seats when they embark on the aircraft. Deciding to make this thing walkable was an arrow to the knee of a decision, but if you do these things to yourself, you force creativity and elaborate solutions that, while they might be objectively worse in a given situation, they develop you as a trailmaker and let you apply that creativity elsewhere in a project that actually matters. It was all a bit random from this point onwards without any clear cohesiveness to my build process. As such, I built mounting points for the wings, then added the front landing gear, and then I designed the engines I wanted to mount onto the wings that didn't exist yet. Make it make sense. Only after 2 of the 4 engines had been placed, the wings began to actually see some structure. I then laid a line of 4x8s to indicate how long I wanted the wings to be, which was way too long, but you know, live and learn and all that jazz. But oh, finishing the wings. Just finishing the wings would be way too simple. Let's go back and add another turret onto the top. Then let's add the rear landing gear and arbitrarily decide to stop recording. Sure, no problem. I'm sure there was a reason for it, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was. According to the metadata, I returned about a day later, sculpting the tail before fashioning a vertical stabilizer and beginning on the elevators. Before running out of complexity. Oh well, time to compromise. For anyone that cares, I'd like to apologize for not posting yesterday. I've been trying to change my editing software from Filmora to DaVinci Resolve so I can make use of the automatically separated audio tracks that OBS offers, because Filmora doesn't support that, at least not the version that I have. While I was fighting OP Nightmarine in the Trailmakers PvP tournament, which was the video that I was planning to post on Monday, I made the mistake of switching the tracks while I was still recording. I didn't know this at the time, but that caused me to lose all of the audio except for my voice, which would have been so unbelievably awkward to try and make use of. Unfortunately, I lost, and to see what happened, you'll have to go to his channel to find out. It was extremely close, and I don't know if he's posted it yet, but if he has, I strongly recommend checking it out. But now let's get back to the video. Eventually, its shape is complete and it flies relatively well. To assist in its flight performance, I decided to build a stabilization system that could keep the plane flying straight. That is, straight relative to the ground. The angle of attack needed to get enough lift is kind of insane. Finally, it's time to paint. There aren't many good color images of this plane where I can see what the livery looks like. So I just added things that felt right. In other words, a silver body and some simple graphical patterns here and there. Now that the plane is finished, we can conduct some durability tests to find weak points in the fuselage. Not that I can do much to fix these problems, especially considering the fact that I don't have any wiggle room at all complexity-wise, but it is what it is. But anyways, there it is. I hope you like it. I think next time I will try to focus on function a lot more rather than trying to make it walkable on the inside, as well as making it a two-player vehicle. Not only will that make it more durable, it'll hopefully cost less complexity, and it'll also make it more accessible for multiplayer videos, because it's really not that often that you get an 8-player server to orchestrate a fair fight for a plane with a crew that has half the server sitting on it just so that it works. But for now, that's not important. I'd instead like to thank you sincerely for sticking with me to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe to see more. If you have anything you'd like to see next, drop a comment down below. My name is DaVinci, and this has been the making of a multi-crewed FPV bomber plane. I'll see you all in the next one.